Hello and welcome to the Wydowhood Podcast, Wydowhood with a Y, where why is always the question. I am Celeste Frey and I am ecstatic to be bringing you my very first episode. We will focus on motivation, faith, and financial literacy, all of which is important when having to start over after losing a spouse or any loved one for that matter. Why is always the question. We are focused on answering those whys in our lives. So each week we'll be discussing and interviewing individuals and their expertise based on the topic of the week. We will add value and importance to you, the audience. So I will begin this week with discussing time. We do not have any guests scheduled for this episode, so we'll be moving forward discussing the importance of time from my perspective in three areas of our lives: faith, family, and career. So for me, I chose faith first because for nearly a decade, my husband and I had moved overseas to a very religious country, although we're not religious family. And I say that in respect to the fact that we focus on our spirituality. We do read the Bible. I do read the Bible. That is my choice of education when it comes to educating myself about who the Most High is and what He wants of us. So we spend a great deal of time focusing on building our faith, reading the scriptures, and applying those scriptures to ourselves, putting it in our hearts and in our souls, so to speak. And it definitely took quite a bit of time to actually understand, apply it, because the book is so twofold, threefold, quadfold, So I can say for anyone that is on a quest or searching, that will be a good place to start. Be a good place to start when you're asking yourselves questions, because that book has the answers. Who we are, where we come from, what is needed and wanted of us. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't stop. This quest of us focusing on just building our faith wasn't just, we're going to do this for a couple of years and then we're going to stop. That's something that we continue applying. Of course, as you know, especially with the name Widowhood, that I am a widow. So my husband did end up passing away while we were still overseas. But because of the time that we put into building our faith, it made it an easier process. It's never easy to lose anyone, a loved one, anyone. But when you have more of an understanding because of the time that you put in with building your faith and reading the Word, for me, the Bible, my book of choice, it gave me more understanding and made the process easier to deal with. Okay? And in a later podcast, and I'll go into how I dealt with it more in depthly, because there's nothing never. So it's not simple. It's not easy. The emotion there, can't overlook that. So I feel like it is imperative to have that spirituality within yourself, to put that time in, to step away. Thankfully, living overseas, we were able to step away from the rat race. We were able to step away from the distractions, so to speak. I'm from the U.S. The U.S. is my home, from Cali, born and raised, of course. But I noticed even coming back, it's just so much distractions. And I really enjoyed being in a space and in a place where all I had to do was focus on my faith and then my family, which goes into my next area. So when my husband and I moved overseas, we moved overseas with 4 children. We had just had our 4th child. She was 6 weeks old. For anybody, that can be scary. But because of our focus and determination and what was important to us, we decided to go ahead and take that leap, and so happy we had the faith to do so. While living overseas, we definitely had 4 more children. So our family grew quickly from 6 to 10. 4 children, then 8 children, and of course, mom and dad. I had never had a moment in time like I did while living overseas with my babies and my husband. Every single day was a wonderful adventure with each of them. The time that we got to spend together was amazing. I was married. Sorry about that. Motorcycle riding by. I was married to my husband for 13 years. But, we had been really good friends and best friends, really, for over 25. Actually met him in high school. We dated briefly in high school as teenagers. And when that didn't work out, we went our separate ways. We actually came back together as friends. Not to say that I didn't still have feelings for him as we were friends, and he didn't have feelings for me. Two young, good-looking, individuals. But we didn't cross that boundaries as friends, you know what I mean? So we did get married, and we had this big, beautiful family. Man, it was wonderful to spend every single day with each other, every day. Can you imagine that? So sometimes when you're in relationships, both of you are working most of the time. Again, when you pull it from the rat race of the States and you go to another country and it's not as difficult to live, you can focus on one another, your faith, and here we are, family. So, when we did go out there, I did work as a teacher for a while in some of the schools because I'm a teacher, and then I decided, let me focus on teaching my own children, and that led to me starting a small school myself, which was wonderful. But I spent every single day with my husband and with our children. We owned our time. That type of freedom, you can't buy that, right? I worked from home, teaching online, as did he. And, we were able to just do as we wanted and go as we wanted and do as we pleased. That family time and everything, being there. And I know mothers, stay-at-home moms can attest to this, or stay-at-home dads can attest to this. When you're actually getting the opportunity and a chance to watch your children grow up. Like, you're not missing anything, right? You're not missing the first steps or the first words. You're actually teaching them their education, so they're learning first from you, right? In a very organic way. So that time for me was very precious, very, very precious. And that's why I tell, all this week I've been covering the topic of time, all week. So you can check out my tips for why that I post on my Instagram daily. These are motivational affirmations that I love to share and help to send a positive message to my audience. I also have a blog covering the topic of time for this week. And then I have a song titled, you guessed it, Time. Which in a few I'm going to go ahead and play a snippet of it, but you can definitely go and hear the rest on all streaming platforms. All right. So back to this, the topic of time and spending it with family. I was able to watch my children grow up, watch their personalities develop. And we did that for almost 10 years. And it wasn't until we had, wait, before I go into my husband, we had our sixth baby. And why that's significant is because the 5 children I had before then were all born by C-section. C-section, can you believe that? And it wasn't as if I needed them. I didn't need them. It's just that my first son was an emergency C-section. For whatever reason, he was his heart rate dropped when I was in labor with him, and they felt that they need to get him out of me. Okay, fair enough. 8 years later, when I had my second child, the doctors, said it'd just be better for me to go ahead and have a C-section, and I didn't want to, but they, have their ways of making you, I call it scaring you and coercing you into something you don't want to do, because I didn't have to do it. But when you're pregnant and your emotions are heightened, and you read a paper saying, if you don't do this, you're going to die, your baby's going to die, you kind of make a decision that's not logical. It's an emotional decision. Anyway, moving forward from there, though, I had 5 children by C-section. And I would always hear God. I know it's his voice. I would always hear him speak to me and say, hey, you don't have to have these children by C-section. You can have them naturally. But the voices of the doctors always won over, or more so the voices in my head of me being frightened, right? But when we get to our 6th child, I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to the Father. I'm going to listen. We've been focusing on faith and building faith for these years. I'm going to listen. By this time, we had only lived overseas by 3 years. Faith was strong. So guess what? Had our 6th child. The guy had a C-section? Nah. Pushed him right out. Pushed him right out. Man, first natural birth. That would be what, a VBAC. That'll be what, VBAC after 5C, right? That's how they would say it. A vaginal birth after 5 cesareans. Whoa. So, I'm like, okay, well, I can do this, But, in that month, something I didn't realize, as I was breastfeeding my son and he was acting himself, and like babies do. I mean, he's a baby, breastfeeding and using the restroom. He'll cry every now and then. He was a real chill baby. I didn't realize my baby was losing weight. And by the time I got my son, he was exactly like a month to the date. By the time I got him to the hospital, I thought he was just sick. He actually was dying from a lactose deficiency, because apparently he hadn't been getting all the nutrients that he needed from my breast milk. And he didn't show any signs. So I'm going to get into more of that in another episode when I discuss and get more information. I definitely want to interview a doctor to learn more about this, to bring this information to you, the audience, because this is something that I was unaware of. I was totally unaware that my lactose intolerance and my husband's lactose intolerance developed a lactose deficiency in our children. And he wasn't the first child that had it, but I didn't know about it until him. So I'll touch on that in a later time. So my husband and our son passes away. And it was a crucial time for our family. I never forget how I felt. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Oh, man. I felt like I was in a nightmare. And I remember being on the bus with my husband, we're going to the embassy the same day that we were supposed to get our son's birth certificate going out there for that. We had to go to get his death certificate. And I remember laying and I'm sleeping. I felt like I was in a nightmare and I was about to wake up screaming. And my husband grabbed me. And he read me this scripture, which I hold dear to me to this day. This is also the same scripture I read to our children when he passed away. And that's 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 through 18. I'm going to read it because I want to share this with you all. It can help you if you're a believer, if you believe in the Word of God. If you don't, I hope you find solace and comfort in some way. But this helped me and comforted me. So he grabbed me and he read this to me. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. So those of you who may not know, when the Bible refers to sleep, especially in this context, usually they talk about those that have passed away. Okay? I just read verse 13, read verse 14. For if we believe that Christ died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Christ will the Most High bring with him. Verse 15, for this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. Verse 16, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Verse 18, wherefore comfort one another with these words. So, when my husband read this to me, it definitely brought me comfort. Because, see, we had already been focusing on building our faith, right? So I told you at this time it had been 3 years. And we had been spending all this time with our family. This was our 6th child. So I told you we moved over there with 4. So we had 2, and he was our 6th, my first vaginal birth, right? So it was a lot that went, a lot of emotion that went there. And, we had our funeral for our son and explained this to our children who were still so young at the time. All they know is that mommy was pregnant. We brought home a baby brother. We were living with our baby brother. Our baby brother is no longer here. And we had a funeral for him. And they saw him, So, as you see with the topic of time, when I discussed that importance of spending time with family, you just never know when these things happen or will happen. They come out of nowhere. We don't know the end of our time. We get so focused on so many other things, right? Whereas it's like we forget that we are invincible and we don't live forever, at least not in this realm or this mortal body, right? So, that was a wonderful time with being able to spend that amount of time with my family. I would even, time moves quickly. We know this. We say, man, time is just moving. And every now and then I'll get a glimpse of time slowing down just for a moment. And I can feel it. I can feel it usually when I'm having some really good conversations with people, usually some elders. Getting some wisdom from some elderly, my elders, right? The wise. I'm having conversations with those that are up in age. And it'll feel as though we've been talking for 30 to 45 minutes. And I look at the time and it's only been 5. And I'm like, wow, time just slowed down for a second. What's up? Love that. I've only felt that twice. twice. I felt that in the last 10 years. I felt that 2 times, at 2 different points, Man, I always say, yo, thanks, Father. I appreciated that because I felt it. I appreciated that. You slowed time down just a little bit. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to the topic of time, faith is something we definitely got to put the time in and build it. We can't just be here thinking we can just build our lives and we don't and we just here. Like we inevitable. We saved our lives, ourselves. When those supernatural things happen, it's like, yo, that wasn't you. Let's put that faith in. Let's build that. And then family time. Family time is crucial because listen, you don't know when you're ever gonna see that person, that spouse, that child, that nephew. I lost my nephew. Lost my nephew. Your grandmother, parent, you never know when you're going to see that person again. So if you have the time, even if you're not, like I was overseas for a decade, but I definitely made it a point to contact my family as much as I could. I could have done a lot more with other family members, I feel. And I look at that and I don't overlook it. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was perfect, but, when situations occur, man, it really opens your mind a little bit more. Like, man, I don't really know if I have that much time with this person. Let me not take this for granted, especially when it comes to family. All right. So after going over those 2 topics, or those 3 areas, I want to go into career. Now, it's going to sound like I'm being like I'm going against everything I just said. I'm not going against it, but, this is never something as easy as it could be a double-edged sword. Because when it comes to careers, a lot of the time, we waste time on doing something that we know we weren't called to do. But because we get so caught up in a rat race, and because we may not have the faith or the belief that we can actually carry out what our dreams are, we just let it go by the wayside. And we know that saying of the richest place in the world is the graveyard because of all the dreams and goals that were never completed by a person that just didn't believe that they can do it. And even myself, I wasted time on some things. Some when I look back, some of the time that I did waste, I'm like, well, man, it was a growth period there. But I'm never going to say procrastination is a good thing. I mean, you have moments where it's like, oh, there was a reason for that. But when you just procrastinate and wasting time for no reason, it's like, come on, man. You need it, man. Come on now. What we doing? I mean, even me, this very podcast, I wanted to start this last year. I planned actually on starting this before the pandemic even hit. Here we are, right? We got to get out our own heads. Like, what does career really mean to you? Is a career just being able to have a job that pays money to take care of the family and pay the bills? Or is a career really something that you love and enjoy doing and you can actually be used and make a difference in the world or leave your stamp somewhere? And I'm not talking about we have to be this huge, famous, uber, amazing, top of the line person where everyone's like, oh my gosh. I'm just saying, just being or doing something that actually speaks true to who you are. Right? So I'm actually going to take a quick break. I want to play you a snippet of my song Time. It's a quick snippet, right? Because it even took this, making sure I got this out. Man, the Father spoke to me last year and told me to get this done. Last year. I'm glad I finally took the time to do it. I'm going to continue doing this and making sure that I'm consistent. So let me go ahead and play you a snippet of my new song, Time, and we'll be back.
Seems like everything we're always in a rush. Days fly by, it's like we never have enough. Time to ever finish all of us through. A time to start again, it's always enough. But just remember that the power's in you to complete the task you set to do. Don't let down, get the best in you. It's a new day, and you know what to do, yeah. You know, we have to stop procrastinating on completing tasks and goals that we need to do to take us to the next level in our lives. Cause listen, you were called to be great, but how can you reach your greatness if you keep wasting time in your life as if it's not a commodity? It's precious. Like the Bible says, our lives are like a vapor. We could be here today and gone tomorrow. Think about it.
So we're back to the Wydowhood Podcast, Wydowhood with a Y, because why is always the questions. We are question. Why is always the question or question. I am Celeste Frey, and I am focused on bringing you motivation, faith, and financial literacy on this podcast. So we're focusing. Well, this week the focus was on time. And so I wanted to just cover 3 areas of time in our lives, which involves faith, family, and career. So I ended off on career. And I want to go ahead and play a snippet of my new song entitled Time that you can definitely hear the rest of it on all streaming platforms. And I also have a music video, just a lyric video that I'm creating on YouTube, on my channel, Wydowhood with a Y, right? And I hope you're enjoying the content that we're sharing so far. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know, how you feel. Tell us how the show has helped you in any way or how it made you feel. Or, we're growing and we're going to always be looking for wonderful feedback. This is my first episode and I intend to record many more. So anyway, getting back to career. So I touched on the fact that, hey, I was supposed to start this podcast last year. And then I'm also letting you know, hey, I was supposed to do this music last year. And don't get me wrong, all things are in time and all things are in timing. So it makes you think, was that procrastination good or not? For me, I'm finally realizing, I have so many of my peers that say, man, Celeste, I enjoy listening to you. Celeste, I enjoy your music. You help me, you uplift me, you inspire me. And I never take the credit for that. I just say, oh man, praise the Father. Because he made me who I am. But am I being used in totality by him? Right? Am I really stepping into my purpose? And I have to really take the time to ask myself that. Because here I am, I know I'm a musician. I sing, I write music, I produce music. And this is something I've always done for years. It's been a part of me. The arts, anything artsy, I do it. Acting, dancing, singing, songwriting, even drawing. Right? When it comes to arts, I'm all in. I'm all there. And so I just always thought, well, hey, I'm meant to be an artist. But I always felt in my spirit, right? There's more that he want to use me for. I've always been a positive person. I never look at others as my competition. I always look at myself as my competition because I'm always trying to get to a better version of myself and not from what I see from others, just of what I feel internally. If I can be better, I need to learn to do better, and that takes a lot of work to walk that path. Being honest, knowing who you are, being direct when needed, being submissive when needed, being humbled. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I can't even name everything right now. But those of you who know, you know, right? And so for career, I always thought I must be doing music. I mean, I always had my toe right there. And I focused on the industry. I always had my toe right there, whether when I was in Hollywood, doing a lot of backing vocals. I forget the name of the guy right now who misses me, the producer of Married with Children. And that was just divine, the way I met him. Doing other backing vocals in other major studios. I just needed vocalists, and my hustle was simple. Listen, grab the phone book, call every studio in the city, and ask them if they need a singer or songwriter, and put a posting on Craigslist too. It was just that simple for me. I try to make sure I take the most simplest steps as possible in life, and as I do that, it starts to unwind and unfold before me. And so therefore, this is what I'm doing now, right? I said, because the Father said, yeah, you a musician. Yeah, but there's more I got for you. And I'm actually seeing that, man, what he has for me is this: motivation. Motivating through my music and motivating through my speaking. Something that's natural, came natural, that I've been gifted with. So I'm stepping into my gift. So as far as career, sometimes it's a journey, right? We're taking this journey and we're spending this time doing things that maybe we don't like to do. Like I'm a teacher. I didn't know I was a natural teacher until I stepped into it when I moved overseas. I had no idea. And people would look on, they'd say, man, you naturally do this. Like, this is just something that you've been doing for years, I feel like. And I'm like, well, no, it's just in me. So when I wanted to touch on the topic of career, I wanted to just say and speak to any of you out there. If you know that you hear that voice or that whisper that's telling you that there's something more that's needed of you that you can be doing or that you should be doing, man, don't ignore it. Step into it, because I realize, man, when I stepped into this, and I'm still stepping, man, one foot in front of the other, I tell myself every day. Right? One foot in front of the other. But when you make the decision to step into it, the Father just has a way of unfolding things in front of you, right? It's like, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. Don't overlook it. Don't negate the sound, the voice, the push, right? Some don't negate it. Some say, yeah, I'm running towards it. Some shy away. I can be honest and say I've shied away from a lot of things. But it brought me to this moment. So I spend time on my faith. I spend time with my family. And I'm spending time on my career. And it makes me happy. Man, I hope you all enjoyed the song. Please go and stream it. It's on all streaming platforms. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes, Apple Music, Deezer, Angami. What else? What else is out there? YouTube Music. I mean, there's so many streaming platforms, right? And it's so funny when I think about just, when people you may say to yourself when it comes to career, like, well, somebody already doing it. Or, am I too late? Or, man, stop thinking that. I just named a bunch of streaming platforms, and there's dozens and dozens of more. I always tell people, isn't there more than one flavor soda on the market? I mean, you got options, right? I could have easily said, but there's a lot of podcasts that talk about financial literacy on the market. Well, and this is going to be another one. So thank you all for listening. This is Celeste. My name is Celeste Frey. This is the Wydowhood Podcast, where why is always the question. We are focused on answering your whys. Why? There's so much I can't wait to cover. There's so many guests I can't wait to get on here that can talk to you all and I'll interview and that can share their expertise, right? Because at the end of the day, this is to benefit all of us. Why not? So enjoy the music. There is much more coming. Enjoy the podcast. There will be many more coming. Go to my website, Wydowhood with a Y, WYDOWHOOD. You can read my blog. Listen, we got a lot coming for you. Follow me on Instagram. My handle is Wydowhood with a Y, of course. You know, I share my tips for why, which are just daily affirmations, daily quotes and affirmations, and I like to caption them and go a little more in depth. And of course, the Wydowhood Podcast, where I'll definitely go more in depth here as well. Y'all have a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, in life, in time. And I hope to speak to you or come with more information and love. Have a good one.